across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good evening to you. It is Talk and it is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock tomorrow. And coming up at midnight, of course, it is your chance to talk back. And I have a question for you, and that is, where are you politically? Where are you right now politically? Because I find it really, really interesting with what's going on with the main parties, if you like, at the moment. I mean, for example, Ed Davey, blinding speech in Parliament yesterday. I thought that was really strong standing up against Trump. I think that he's done really, really well, although he's well, they've got more seats than Reform, but still, they're fairly well ignored. And then you've got the Tories, Kemi Badenoch now, who is polling higher than Nigel Farage for the first time, because she's beginning to show her true colours, I think. I mean, certainly how she handled Jenrick was very impressive, and how she's now sort of being a bit Thatcher-esque with the rest of her party, saying if you're gonna go now. So she's getting tougher as well, and seems to be coming into being a decent politician. You've got Keir Starmer, who did, again, I thought, a reasonable speech the other day, but perhaps a little too late as to what's going on in this country, because he seems to be doing rather more on the world stage than he is here. And of course there's all those U-turns and all those changes, and he is deeply, deeply unpopular. And then you've got Reform. Now, Reform's really, really interesting to me at the moment, and I appeal to you if you're a Reform voter, because I'm really interested to know your views on this. What do you make of all the Tories joining Reform? There's 20 now. They haven't even crossed the aisle, they've just sort of slithered off, haven't they? And they've gone and joined Reform. You've got, all these people that have gone, and is that the Reform that you wanted? Because that's my question, really. Do you still see them as Reform, or do you see it as the Tories? Because at some point the balance is going to tip, isn't it? Where it's more Tory defectors than anybody that was originally in Reform. So I wonder if that's going to change the way you want to vote. Because at the end of the day, if you vote for Reform with so many Tories in it, are you just voting for the Tories at the end of the day? So I find that a really interesting question. Is it a reverse takeover? I don't know at what point, as a Reform voter, you say, well, hang on a minute, this has now been watered down from what we thought we would be getting if we voted for Reform. So that's really, I've got lots of questions that I want to ask you at midnight, but basically it is, where are you politically speaking at the moment? Has anything changed your mind? Has anything brought you closer to Reform, further away from Reform, closer to the Tories? Have you been impressed by any of these politicians? I mean, it's a right mess, isn't it? It's an absolute mess. I mean, who is anybody anymore? I'm not sure I know. I mean, are the Tories just Reform light? I don't know who they are. I don't know what Labour stand for either. So it's a very complicated picture. So I genuinely think that the only party that is clear about what it is and what it stands for is the Lib Dems, but that's never going to happen. So I'm just fascinated. Or what about the Greens? Maybe you've decided the Greens are doing extremely well at the moment. So give me a call. Let me know where you are politically, or whether all of this is just too complicated. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at national rate, but we do call you back. And you can text the word talk and then your message to 87222. So that's the conversation I want to have with you at midnight. Joining me at 11 o'clock to discuss that and the front pages for tomorrow is the fabulous John Boothman, political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland. Professor Talma Hendler will be here as well. We're going to be talking about remember it was the day before yesterday, I think, there was that piece in the paper, it was yesterday's paper, that talked about positive thinking. Well, my producer has managed to track down one of the people who carried out those tests to find out if positive thinking did have an effect on your immune system. So we've managed to track her down, and that is this professor. So we're going to be talking to her about the power of positive thinking, and does it scientifically, I'm not interested in, you know, the airy-fairy stuff, but scientifically, does it actually make any difference to our health whatsoever? So we're talking about that. Kevin Schofield joins us to discuss what's going on in the political world at the moment. As I was just alluding to, it's quite complicated. But before all of that, so all of that is to come, by the way, so that is for the next 3 hours. And of course, the most important part is your calls at midnight, so please do get in touch. But to round off this week, kind of looking at what's going on with NATO and with Donald Trump and with Greenland and with Canada. To round that off, of course, Donald Trump was in Davos today, and he did rule out military force. I have a theory on that. I have a very strong theory on why that happened, which I'll be discussing in a moment with our guest. But he's also now backed off from tariffs after a very short meeting with Mark Rutte, the leader of NATO. What on earth could have been discussed that would make Trump suddenly change his mind? It can only be what he could have anyway. Something monumental has happened. This Donald Trump is not the same one as 24 hours ago. So, to discuss that further and to discuss Zelensky meeting with Trump tomorrow, to hope to sign a huge deal in reconstruction money for Ukraine and to get some assurances on any sort of peace deal. There's a lot going on at the moment. And of course, Canada, as we were discussing yesterday, carrying out military exercises in case America tries to invade Canada. So a lot going on. Well, joining me now to discuss all of these issues, if we can get through them all, and the Chagos Islands, blimey, there is so much, is Simon Diggins, a retired British colonel and host of the Sun's Superpowers Exposed series. Simon, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. I mean, this is manna to my heaven anyway. I mean, there's so much stuff to discuss here. But let's first of all discuss the Donald Trump that suddenly, from apparently nowhere, said, we're not going to use military force.
Petrie, good evening to you. Yes, there's quite a marked contrast. I was struck, actually, just reminding myself that the theme of this year's Davos conference is supposed to be a spirit of dialogue. I think we've had a spirit of monologue, and people just reacting to whatever Donald Trump has been saying. I can only imagine that, in a sense, this kind of backs up Lord Mark Sedwell's thesis that a lot of what Donald Trump does is ordered to create a reaction, and he's he talks about himself being the master of the art of the deal, and he set out a maximalist position first. Everyone runs around trying to match it, and actually what he really wanted was something rather less than that, and he sees how much he can get, and that may well be part of it. I would like to think that someone's really reminded him how much he could already do in terms of security of the United States. It's an absolutely legitimate requirement.
He's known that since 1951. Well, I mean, it's not like it's a surprise.
You're right. You would think so. You'd think that it was clear. So the 1951 treaty between the United States and Denmark's been in place. His grasp of history is somewhat limited. But one of these arguments he put forward today was with a kind of slightly partial telling of the Second World War, and I think we get sort of cartoon version of history, which is the one he seems to use. And that, I think, creates some difficulties from there. I can only hope that people like Mark Rutte have been able to say to him, look, you can have all this. You can establish your Golden Dome, radar stations, listing posts, and bases. And it's all there for the taking. And I'm sure Denmark, and I'm sure the Greenlanders themselves, were happy to make deals with you about the reasonable exploitation of the mineral resources on that island. So you can get everything you kind of need from this without the need to...
But Simon, he's been saying, look, yes, I yes, I can do a lease, I can do a rental, but that's not me. I've got to own it. My theory is, and it struck me yesterday when he was talking in the US before he got on the plane, when just towards the end of the extremely rambling year of Donald Trump, he said, have I got any more time, I've got to go and talk to Erdogan. Now, Turkey has been incredibly quiet as one of the biggest members of NATO, with the biggest military, second only to Trump. And he went and had a chat with Erdogan yesterday. And I'm wondering if Erdogan said something to him about NATO, said something to him about his limits, and he's come in today and said, we're not going to use military force, because I don't believe in coincidences. And Turkey has been, sometimes it's you listen for who isn't saying anything, and they're the ones saying the most. So I wonder if Turkey Erdogan has read in the riot act.
He may well have done. He is somebody who listens to him, because Erdogan is
he's a brute.
He's an autocrat. Like him, and he tells him what is going on. He's also got very clear interests in what he's trying to do, particularly in terms of President Trump's plans for Gaza, his border peace, and all the work,
and Syria,
and indeed Syria as well. So that there's a whole sort of range of issues on which President Trump has again staked his claim and said, I'm going to help sort this place out. Syria, quite rightly said, Iran, and Gaza. And that does require Turkey to be, at the very least, cooperative and helpful and supportive. And it may all be that he's also recognises there are risks attached to what he's doing. And Erdogan said, look, you can't do everything all at the same time. This is one we're going to focus on. You want to get this off the board. This is one that's going to get you a Nobel Peace Prize next year if you can sort out Gaza and Syria, as you rightly point out. Greenland, and going for Greenland, when you can have everything militarily you want from there, is not going to help you along the way. And that may well be where he is. So these conversations and these back rooms and these cross connections are fascinating, because they may well be that's the linchpin upon which this whole manoeuvre is.
I just couldn't. The stark difference, the immediacy of him saying, "I'm not going to use military force." A man like Donald Trump, who, I don't back down. I'm not the taco president. Suddenly, completely doing an about face. I can only imagine that somebody bigger, tougher, and stronger than him, or as equal, at least in the terms of using strong language and bullying tactics, has stood up to him.
I think the Europeans and President and Prime Minister Carney certainly stood up to him as well. I would just take slight issue with you. I don't think it's entirely consistent, and we saw that over Iran. I mean, he basically weighed in on the issue around Iran and the revolt that was ongoing in Iran, and said, we're kind of with you, and gave what everyone regarded, down to people kind of clearing the decks and the Iranians closing their airspace, what everyone assumed was also a threat warning that he was going to attack Iran, and then he didn't. And so I think there's also with Trump where he will go for this full-on position, this full maximalist, full threat position. Everybody's then focusing on Trump and not the issues themselves, and then he pulls back from the brink from it as well. And as you say, it could well be Erdogan in this case, who's created that space for him to kind of pull back from the brink. But the issue.
By the way, I called Iran. I knew he wasn't going to bomb Iran.
Yeah. I mean, he's having said that, you're right at the time. He's sending aircraft carriers into the Gulf at the moment, so that may well be back on the. It may well be,
and maybe attacking Greenland could be back on the agenda. I mean, this is the thing with Trump, isn't it? You just don't know. You just don't know.
You just don't know, and I think this is where the whole kind of thesis, and I'm gonna associate it with Mark Sowell, because he was the one who was most clear on it. This is where the whole thesis about, just get used to it, because he's going to go for this kind of very disruptive voice, these very sort of argumentative positions, and then pull back from it. But what it creates is not just uncertainty, and diplomacy hates uncertainty, it likes consistency. It also creates huge waves of ill will. So even if he now has backed away from the threat to invade Greenland or to effectively split the alliance, he has created this huge backwash of disfavour. I mean, it's really interesting. Listen to sort of the kind of vox pops and the kind of populist movements in UK and other places. How much ill will he has created, and it may have a positive output in terms of Europeans, particularly Britain as well, being now serious about their defence, serious about security, serious about national resilience, and serious about strategic autonomy, all of which might be valuable. But actually, at what cost? And the cost is that we now look on America as potentially, I hope God forbid, as an enemy, but certainly not somebody who's a reliable ally, as they've been in the past.
Yeah, I mean, even earlier on today, he was saying, if you give it to us, we'll be appreciative. If you don't, we'll never forget. And a lot of people read that as, oh, well, in that case, the Article 5 is now defunct, right? That's not a thing. And he doesn't seem to have a grasp on the fact that the only time Article 5 was ever triggered was for and in support of America. Nobody seems to have told him that.
I think the people who has around him, and unlike other presidencies, where there are people there who could, if you like, whisper the bad news in his ear, that all the people he's got around him are people who are essentially his toadies. They're his creatures, and what he wants to hear from them essentially is an echo back of what he has. You think back to his first presidency, he had people like John Bolton, who ideologically was very much part of his team, but they were people who would say to him, "This is wrong, Mr. President." There is nobody in his team now, not Marco Rubio, not Pete Hegseth. There's nobody in his team at the moment who will say that to him. The only one who has a little bit of say on that is the Speaker of the House, who's the number 3 in this constitutional order.
Mike Johnson.
He realises he realises he's got to keep on side the American people and indeed the American Republican Party, and he's the only one who appears to have any kind of leverage. But he's not listening to any alternative voices, and I think that's the most dangerous thing about him. He just gets back an echo chamber, which I think, if you're going to be the most powerful man in the world, is a really dangerous position to be in.
But he apparently hates the term taco. Trump always chickens out, and yet he seems to feed that narrative every time this is why I don't think it is a strategy. I don't think he thinks through the strategy in order to back off, because it makes him look weak.
I think that's exactly his problem. I mean, as you say, he launches himself in these really bold statements. The first time we hear there's a policy change or a strategic advantage to be gained, we hear about it on Truth Social or on Twitter. When followed by "Thank you for your attention to this matter." I hate you all. Signed Donald Trump. And then everybody wakes up in the morning thinking, "Oh my goodness, what are we going to do about it?" And I don't know whether that's as I think rather happens with our own dear Prime Minister's tweets from 10 Downing Street. I think that's not sent out by him. I think Donald Trump actually sends these things out.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, he actually sits there and sits and sends the stuff out. And the rest of his governments are running around after him, trying to catch up with him. Say, "Well, did you really mean that, Mr. President? And what are we going to do about it?" And that's the real challenge that his government's got. But more importantly for us, what we've got. And I think that's why the arguments for us finding a way to be united, not to disrupt the institutions that actually work for us, make those better if we can, but just recognise we're in a very different place than we were 1 year, 2 years, 3 years ago. We really have changed, and I don't think we've quite caught up with ourselves yet.
So the pressure's off from Greenland at the moment. More details will come through. I suspect those details will be exactly what he could have had before all of this happened. That's my suspicion. They'll come through. But apparently Zelensky is going to go to Davos tomorrow. He was due to be there today, but he sounds like he's standing up a bit as well when he said, I'm not going to go unless there's papers to sign. And Trump mentioned him 2 or 3 times today, and apparently they are going to sign an 800 billion reconstruction deal for Ukraine, and hopefully some kind of security measures as and when and if there is a peace deal.
No, and that's very positive news, because the other thing that the effect of the consequential effect of the way in which Trump operates is that what goes on in places like Ukraine can often get diminished. The Ukrainians in the last week or so have had to put up with the most horrendous bombardment by the Russians, very much aimed at the civilian population. They were effectively in the middle of one of the most bitter winters for many, many years, have been closing down the energy infrastructure, and particularly the heating systems within the Ukrainian cities. So they, at a personal level, the war is really affecting millions and millions of Ukrainians. So there is a real pressure from that perspective to try and find a deal. But again, I think President Zelensky, he worked out long ago that yes, it's really important to have the Americans on side, but as they can't be trusted, as they're not consistent, under Biden they're $1 too little, $1 day too late. Trump arrived and basically tried to hand the whole thing over to President Putin. They've worked out that they need to operate by themselves, and we're going to have to learn exactly that same lesson. I do hope that something positive comes out of this. In the meantime, Putin apparently has been invited to join the Board of Peace, along with Lukashenko from the president of Belarus. I mean, that's the world we're in. People who, this is the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact of 1939, and we find ourselves supposedly allied with one or the other.
Yeah, and we're watching history repeat itself almost to the word. I mean, it is actually quite extraordinary. When we look at Ukraine, we're coming up to the 4th year now, and it doesn't seem that peace is any closer. People keep talking about the peace being closer, and it might be that the 95% is getting done, right, the easy stuff, but it's that last couple of percentage points, isn't it? And there doesn't seem to be a bridge that can span that.
No, I mean, and the most important 5% is stop shooting at each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we're starting to get the lineaments laid out, kind of the lines laid out of what a post-ceasefire settlement may or may not look like, however ugly that settlement is, in terms of de facto losses of Ukrainian national territory and everything that goes with it. But the key thing is for, particularly for Russia, to recognise they really can't get any further. If they're willing to sacrifice another 1 million Russian soldiers, that fill your boots
for an inch, yeah,
absolutely, for an inch. They have now passed the length of time that they fought the Great Patriotic War. So we've now reached that milestone. They've now fought longer in Ukraine than they fought in the Second World War, and for what? Frankly. So, and the economic effects of the wartime focus that Putin's imposed on the Russian economy are starting to fall away. The oil prices basically collapsed. They are essentially a kind of third world country in terms of what keeps them going. And sanctions are starting to bite harder. Now, people have been saying that for a year or two, but it does look like this year particularly, that's going to become really harder and harder to sustain. So there's economic pressure on Putin to change. He seems completely indifferent to losses from there, but there is a limit to that as well. And I think at some point that the two things are going to come together, and hopefully we'll have some form of ceasefire. And what's going to be honest, a fairly ugly peace afterwards as well.
I mean, what kind of world are we living in at the moment? It's an absolute mess, isn't it? Simon, thank you very much indeed. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Simon Diggins there, retired British Colonel and host of the Sun's Superpowers Exposed series. I really thoroughly recommend you look that up on YouTube. Right, quick break, back in a second.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you through till 1 o'clock. And coming up at midnight, of course, it is your chance to talk back. And what I want to ask you at midnight is, where are you politically? Because I don't think I've ever seen a messier political landscape than the one that we've got at the moment. And part of that mess is the number of Tories defecting to reform. Now, we were promised this week, weren't we? We'd see a major player in the Labour Party defect to reform. I don't think we've seen that yet. Could still happen. It's only Wednesday. But I'm just wondering. I thought the point of reform was that it was this new party with, you know, fresh ideas or ideas that you believe in, or whatever it is that you've gone, yeah, this is something new, this is something different, this is something we can get our teeth into and we can vote for, and we can give them a chance, give them an opportunity to be different from all the other parties. But where do you stand with around 20 Tories now in reform? Is it the new fresh party that you thought it was going to be? Has that changed the way you think about reform? Look, the polls are reflecting, actually, that reform is going down in the polls. And I wonder if Nigel Farage is actually making a mistake in taking so many of these Tories into reform and being, you know, Mr., you know, look at this, we've got all these people. Is that what you want to vote for? I mean, you voted the Tories out. Are you really going to vote them back in under the guise of being reform? So I'm fascinated by that. I really genuinely am interested. If you're a reform voter, I'd love to hear from you. Has it changed your view? Has it not changed your view? I could be entirely wrong on this. But it would be interesting to hear from you to say, no, it's not because Nigel's the leader, because Nigel Farage, reform is Farage, really. If he left, I'm not sure what reform would be. But is he powerful enough for you to get behind without worrying about all the other people he would put into ministerial positions, which are likely to be those Tories? Because Nigel Farage has often said, look, what we lack is the experience to run a government. And so that's why he's been pleased to have so many Tories come in, because they've got experience in running a government, into the ground, admittedly, but running a government. So they're likely to get quite good ministerial positions if reform were to win. Is that what you intend to vote for? Is it? If it is, great. If it isn't, I'd love to hear from you, because I think Nigel Farage needs to know if he's making a mistake. 0344 499 1000. You can also text me and put the word talk and your message to 87222. Well, time now to find out how you could be in with a chance to win a trip of a lifetime to San Francisco. Talk is giving away flights, a 3-night stay at a 4-star intercontinental hotel, and $2,500 spending money, plus tickets to the Super Bowl to top it all off. Listen now to see how you can enter.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 22nd January 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here, and like I said, at midnight we're going to be talking about this, and that is the question I'm asking is, where are you politically at the moment? Because I don't even know if the political parties know where they are politically, let alone us, the voters. So to discuss this, I have with me the fabulous Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. Hello there, Kevin. Good to see you.
Hello. Hi, you all right, Pet?
Yeah, I'm good. It's always a pleasure to see you, though. Listen, there's a new poll out today that suggested for the first time Kemi Badenoch's approval rating had to have surpassed that of Nigel Farage. Now, a lot of people did think that Farage would peak in the sort of 20s and then start to come down. But this is Kemi surpassing him. Are you surprised by that?
Not especially. She's definitely improved her performance over the last, probably going back 6 months. I think. I mean, if you think, it's not that long ago really when all the talk was she's not going to last, that she was basically going to get, under the Tory party rules, you can't be challenged within a year of becoming leader. And her year was up in November, and there was lots of people saying they're just biding their time, they're waiting until November and then she'll be gone. But by the time November came round, all that talk had gone, because she'd improved her performance at Prime Minister's Questions, which I know a lot of voters probably don't watch it, but it's important inside the Commons. It's important for morale amongst your MPs. You know, if you're putting in a good performance every week, catching Keir Starmer out, making him look a bit daft, then that definitely helps your standing in the parliamentary party. And she's definitely improved a lot. I think she's got different people round about her, advising her on Prime Minister's Questions, and she just certainly seemed a bit more confident, a bit more sure of herself. I'm not that surprised that she's now, her approval rating's better than Nigel Farage, because the Tories' overall opinion poll ratings have been ticking up ever so slightly. They're still well behind reform, but we're still 3 years out from a general election. And as I say, all talk of her being under threat has gone, and I think that's given her more confidence, allowed her to relax a bit, announce a few policies as well, which she said she wouldn't do initially, but now she is, and she's been able to define herself and what the Tory party under her will look like. And I think people are starting to appreciate that.
Yeah, it is for her, though. It's a marathon, isn't it? She has to be aware as well of peaking too early, of giving away too many policies, of doing, in other words, of doing too much. So she's got to tread that line really carefully. Because, like you said, 3 years. I mean, 3 minutes is a long time in politics at the moment. Let alone 3 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're right. Yeah, there is a balance to be struck. Her initial strategy was, she was going to take her time. She wasn't going to announce any policies for 3 years. But I think quickly people realised we've got to have an idea about what you stand for, what ideas you've got. So she started to sort of drip out some policies, like the one a week or so ago where she said a Conservative government led by her would ban social media for under 16s. Now, that was a bit of a gamble, because Conservatives instinctively are against banning stuff. They don't like the big state telling people what they can and can't do. But I think she's maybe captured the public mood there. Now you've got the government starting to, having previously ruled that out, Keir Starmer, I think they're probably edging towards that position as well. So I think she can take quite a lot of credit for it. So she's definitely helped to define herself and the party a bit better, but it's still very early days. She's only been leader for 15 months. Probably won't have an election until 2029, so she's got to keep it going. But there is a you know, there's certainly positive signs if you're a Conservative MP or a Conservative voter.
They do have to decide who they are, though. I mean, I'm asking the audience about where they are politically, and as I said, a lot of the political parties don't know where they are, but we have still got no idea really what Labour stands for, and I understand that she's been advised to bring the Tories back to the centre ground at the moment, but she's not keen on doing that. So is she reform light? Is she going to come back to the, you know, who are they going to be? The policies are one thing, but a declaration of who you are is another thing entirely.
Yeah, I mean, I think instinctively Kemi is pretty right wing. She's certainly on the right of the Conservative Party, but I think Conservative strategists can spy a gap in the market there. You've got Reform are obviously right wing, Labour left of centre, then you've got the Lib Dems and the Greens. So there is a sort of centre-right shaped hole in British politics that the Conservatives can fill. But they have to be very careful on how they identify themselves. You know, there's a lot of different views within the Conservative Party. A lot of them, they can see the appeal of reform, but would never give up on the Conservatives. But you know, they would describe themselves as being definitely on the right of the political spectrum. You've also got those who are the One Nation Tories, the Tory Wets, as they used to be called in Margaret Thatcher's day, who are viewed with suspicion by those on the right of the party. So they have to. The Conservative Party is a successful party when it's a broad church, when it can marry those moderate centre-right, very centre-right, and more right-wing people. If you can marry them together, I think that's where a lot of voters are. You know, a lot of voters
completely agree with you. Yeah,
turned off. They don't like reform.
No, I think most of us are in the centre.
Labour, but they want a reason to vote Conservative.
Yeah, but the thing is that if she doesn't pull slightly back to the centre, those voters who are traditional Tory voters, those ones we've just talked about, that a lot of people are pretty much central, they'll like some things on the right and some things on the left, they're going to go to the Greens, and we're seeing that as well. The Greens are becoming a party that you listen to now, and a party that's getting more publicity, let's say, than the Lib Dems. So, Kemi's got to decide where she wants those votes. Can she take on reform or to-form, as we're calling it now, because it's a Tory reform?
Yeah.
We'll come to that in a moment. But there are alternatives, and she knows that. And people, okay, maybe not in the numbers required, but she will need every single vote. She won't want any to go to the Greens. No,
certainly not the Greens. I mean, the Greens now are unashamedly a far left party under Zach Polanski. You know, I think they've attracted quite a lot of former Corbynites who were kicked out of the Labour Party, so they've definitely pitched their tent on the left wing of British politics. There are obviously Lib Dem Tory marginals where you see maybe the Tory moderates might be tempted to vote Lib Dem if they think that the Tory party is drifting off too far to the right. So that's where Kemi has to be very careful. As you say, they don't want to be reform light. You know, you can't really out-reform reform. I think people who are tempted to vote reform are probably not going to come back to the Conservative Party, certainly maybe not this side of the general election. You're seeing obviously an awful lot of Conservative MPs defecting now as well. But I think, as you alluded to earlier, Petrie, that is a danger. There's a danger there for reform as well.
Yeah.
To try and present themselves as this new insurgent party when they're stuffed full of the people who were in the last Tory government and were kicked out. That government was kicked out comprehensively at the last general election. Yeah, I mean, it really is the issue, isn't it? Because as I was saying earlier as well, is that to begin with, Nigel Farage said, look, we don't have the experience to run government. So he was quite happy to see all these Tories come along who had got experience. So they're likely, if let's say he did win and he put a parliament together, he's likely to put those people into fairly senior positions. So we've got a bunch of Tories potentially on the front bench of a reform government. That is not going to be what people voted for. Well, no, I think that is certainly Labour's attack is already written for them at the next general election. It's like, these are the guys that they would say ruined the country over 14 years. You kicked them out the last time. Why on earth would you let them all back in again, but with a different colour rosette on this time round? Now, I think that's why, as you also mentioned earlier, Nigel Farage had talked about attracting some big-name Labour person. Now, he made a mistake there. That was last Thursday when Robert Jenrick was unveiled. He named the date. He said, next Tuesday, come along, you're all invited, it'll be marvellous fun. Well, Tuesday came and went, and there was no Labour defector. So that's a bit of a problem for him. I spoke to the Reform people. They said, it's because Trump has dominated the news cycle, it would be a loss, so we're just going to wait. Well, but we don't know when they're going to wait to. Is it because that the person is actually a pretty underwhelming figure, former MP? It's not as if there's any, like the Tories, there's no direct Labour MP going straight to Reform, as far as we know. Now, if that were to happen, I think that would be a big boost again for Reform. But until that happens, I think it's going to be difficult for them to shake off this sort of Tories 2.0 tag that they've got right now.
Well, talking of defections, Kemi's really got to get a grip on her. I mean, in a Thatcherite grasp, hasn't she now? In order to, well, she said, go now or stay where you are. There's the door, get out. If she has any more defections, will that make her look weak now?
I think there is a danger of that. Now, she's presented it as, spring cleaning and taking out the rubbish and all that type of stuff, but she was made to look a little bit silly when, after Jenrick defected, she was asked in an interview, can you 100% guarantee that no more Tory MPs will defect? And she foolishly said, yes, I can. And then I think it was the next day, Andrew Rosenfeld, Shadow Minister, defected. So, at the moment, she's just about getting away with it. But if we start to see more Tory defectors, then I think it does start to look like a bit of an exodus, and that is definitely a problem for her. Nigel Farage, of course, said last week, May the 7th, the local elections, that's the cut-off point. You're more than welcome to defect up until the 7th of May. After that, we're closing the books. That whether he sticks to that or not, I'm not entirely sure. But if you see another, say, 4 or 5, maybe more Tory MPs defecting to Reform before then it does start to look like a real issue for the Tories, because it's not as if they've got a lot of MPs to begin with. They had a terrible time at the last general election, so they can't really afford to lose many more. Do
you think, just quickly, Kevin, do you think that anybody who defects should go through a by-election?
Yeah, I do think that.
I do too.
And it's funny how a lot of these people who have defected also thought that at one time, but as soon as they're the ones involved, they start to say, well, no, it's not necessary. I think so, I mean, if you are someone in Newark, for instance, who voted for Robert Jenrick, you voted for a Conservative
for a Tory,
MP. You've no longer got a Conservative MP, you've got a Reform MP. Now, some of them, I'm sure, will think, great, I'm going to vote Reform next time anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. But quite a lot of them, I would have thought, would be like, no, I don't like that. I voted for him, and I'm a Conservative. I'm not Reform. So really, they should have the courage of their convictions. If he thinks that Reform is going to form the next government, then surely he should have no fears about standing in a by-election. So I think it's a little bit cheeky to jump ship, change the colour of your rosette, and then not seek a new mandate from the voters.
Yeah, completely agree. Kevin, thank you. Pleasure to talk to you as ever. Kevin Schofield there, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. We're talking positively in just a moment. Stay where you are.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good evening to you. This is Talk and it is Petrie, and just a reminder that coming up at the top of the hour is the wonderful John Boothman, political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland. He's going to be going through the stories on the front pages for us for tomorrow. Now though, do you think that positive thinking has an effect on your health? Well, there's a new study from Tel Aviv University that's been looking into whether the power of positive thinking could be enough to boost your immune system. During the trial, volunteers were being trained on how to think hopeful thoughts in a way that activated special brain circuits linked to optimism. Researchers found that those who use positive thinking to boost activity in the brain's reward system responded better to vaccination, with their immune systems producing more antibodies than others. And animals, they've checked in animals as well about the reward system in their brains and what effect that has on their health. We've all long suspected it, I think, probably, that positive thinking can help. But this isn't about just being, this is science. This is proper science now backing up this thought process. Well, joining me now is the lead of this study at the Tel Aviv University, Professor Talma Hendler, who's a psychiatrist and neuroscientist as well. Professor, a very good evening to you. Thank you for joining me. I think a lot of us think, well, positive thinking is good. It's certainly good for your mental health, and that can have a boost on your physical health. But this is the proper science looking at how it does boost your immune system.
Yeah. So, we were able to, first, this is a collaboration study between two labs in Tel Aviv University, also in collaboration with the Technion and Tel Aviv Medical Center in Israel. And what we were able to show that is that people who are trained to upregulate their reward system in the brain were developing more antibodies to hepatitis B after vaccination. So it was a very specific response of the immune system in response to a challenge like vaccination. In addition, we found that this upregulation of the very specific nuclei within the reward system, the ventral tegmental area, known to secrete dopamine and be very important for our motivation system, motivating us to act upon the world. This was the more you are having positive expectation, the more your system was activated. So the same system that was correlated with the immune system. So there is this triangle between brain, immune system, and our mental state, specific mental state that is positive expectation. You call it hope and positive thinking, but this is very important distinction, that it's about thinking about good things that will happen in the future and not just being happy or thinking about pleasant things or things that makes us feel better. This is about expecting better things, and that's why it is related to a mechanism we know as the placebo effect, where therapeutic effect has an additional part of effect that is not related to the therapeutic, but rather to our mental state around the therapeutics. But what we show here is the mechanism, the neural mechanism for this effect. And as you said, this is based on animal work from Asya Roll's lab, that she's also collaborator with me here on this project, that she stimulated specifically this nuclei in the mice brain and showed that there was a better immune response and better coping with infection and even with cancer. What we were not able to, we didn't try to show it in humans yet. We only demonstrated the boosting of the immune system. So it's very important to say that we didn't demonstrate the clinical effectiveness of this mechanism, rather only show the pathway between the brain and the immune system. So we proved that there is a connection between what our brain is doing and how a defense mechanism of our body is being activated. So that's the big news, actually.
I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. I was saying just the other day when I read it, first of all, in the paper, that I was diagnosed with MS about 10 years ago, and I was part of a study where the guy, I didn't know what he was studying. I just went along to it, and he got me to do, you know, some tests, hand-eye coordination, things like that. But actually, the study was on thought process, and he said to me at the end of the study, he said that I've got patients who have got fewer markers than you, fewer issues, physical issues, who are already in wheelchairs. But you are somebody that I don't think, you know, he was just basically looking at thought processes and how you can, I don't know, I saw it as, you know, just letting the disease in and becoming a victim to it. But this is actually so interesting, because I think we all think that positive thought is good for your health, right?
Well, it's expecting something good to happen is what drives us motivationally to act upon the world, to seek good things and to take even risk in order to gain rewards, because we expect to benefit rather than to be punished. So it's important to make, I want to make this point, it's not only thinking, it's thinking that leads to upregulation of this part of the brain that secrete the dopamine and is probably doing the work. Not alone, probably also involving the autonomic nerve system, but the peripheral nerve system, but it definitely shows that brain is an active player in our health. It's not only responding to what's happening to us in terms of our health, but also affecting it directly. So
I mean, it is absolutely, I mean, I'm going to say mind-blowing, but I mean, it really is, because in the future, I mean, in real world terms, you know, your research will go on, I presume now, to see if it will benefit people who've already got a cancer or something like that, and to see if positive thought can lead to an attack, or, you know, with your immune system against something like that. But
exactly.
Should you prove that, I mean, that just opens up a whole world.
Yes, it definitely opens a new horizon for involving the brain in our body therapeutics. And specifically, we have been using in this project technique of brain-computer interface, where we close the loop with our brain and train people to modulate the brain by themselves, not stimulating from the outside, not being invasive, but rather driving the brain by themselves through their thoughts and their feelings. And then we discovered that the thoughts and feelings that were driving this particular brain region was positive expectations. So it's definitely a venue for new therapeutic approach in the future. But I also want to say, I don't think it's going to replace treatment.
No.
It's only going to boost it, to improve it. There is a big difference between people in responding to different treatments, also to vaccination. And this might be a way to help people who are less responsive to certain treatment, or maybe prevent going too high with the drugs and the therapy, and use other ways of our whole body to cope with a with the disease, and not only wait for the body to do it, but rather recruit or harness the brain into this play, into this game.
I mean, it's often been said, isn't it, that we're only using about 5, or that we know of about 5% of our brain. So to open up to things like this, and that could again open doors to other things that our brains can affect physically.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I love this stuff, and I'm well done. Congratulations on your research, and good luck going forward with it. Professor Talma Hendler, psychiatrist, neuroscientist, and lead of the study at Tel Aviv University, looking into the power of positive thinking. Well, I'm thinking positively now of the next hour as John Boothman joins us to go through the papers.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good evening. This is Petrie, and don't forget, coming up at midnight we have Talkback. It's your hour. It is your chance to have your say and be the conversation and tell me what you think. Now, the question I'm asking you at midnight is, where are you politically? Because I think it's a bit of a mess at the moment. Reform is now completely reverse taken over almost by Tories, and there may even be more defections who, because they've got a bit of experience in Parliament, not good experience as in they didn't do much for us, but they're likely to get the top jobs in any government that Reform was asked to form. So it's an interesting one for me about Reform, because I think a lot of you have seen that as well, right? You're going, well, hang on a minute, is this the new fresh party that we're supposed to be voting for? It looks horribly familiar at the moment. In fact, Nigel Farage has warned of reform risks becoming the Slytherin house of British politics, and a succession battle is looming for the leadership after Tory defections. So It's an interesting one. What do you think of reform? Are you a reform voter? Is this going to change your mind, or are you going to say no? We've got to give Farage a go. So I'm interested to know about that. But on the other hand, of course, Kemi's doing really well. Sorry, I've got something in my eye. Kemi's doing really well. She, in terms of leadership now, she has now beating Farage in the polls. That people are now, she's now ahead of Farage in the polls. And Labour, well, I mean, where are they? Nowhere to be seen. The Lib Dems, I think, although they're nowhere, they're consistent. I know who the Lib Dems are. They've kind of never changed, but I don't know who the Tories are. I don't know who they're going to be in 3 years' time. We know who Reform is. They're very clear about that, and we're not entirely sure who Labour is. So if you are politically homeless or you don't know, I don't think they know either. So I'd love to hear from you, though. Where are you politically? And like I said, if you are a Reform voter, I absolutely want you to call, because I really want to hear what you're making of this sort of apparent reverse takeover of by the Tories. It's extraordinary. 20 of them now. You couldn't make this stuff up. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back. And you can text me as well, text the word talk and then your message to 87222. Well, joining me now to discuss this story and the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers is the wonderful John Boothman, political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland. John, wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Aye, good evening. Yeah, that's a really interesting question you're asking, and I don't want to complicate things any further, but it's worth saying that there's elections all over England, as you know, coming up. There's elections in Scotland and in Wales. You could face a situation after May where you find that in Scotland and in Wales you will have two nationalist parties in charge of the government. Plaid Cymru are leading the polls in Wales. The SNP are top of the polls in Scotland. And it does make, right, for quite an interesting, period as we go forward. It's probably worth saying, though, that there's still 3 years to go to the general election.
Yes, it's a long way.
Nigel Farage says that, he thinks, it might come sooner. He would want it to come sooner. And I often say this, I had a former colleague when I worked at the BBC who was fond of mixing his metaphors, and I did go to a meeting where he said there's a whole lot of water to go under the fridge until there's light at the end of the funnel. But I knew what he meant.
Yeah, we all know that's brilliant. I love that. But the thing is as well, if you, in these local elections, right, if you vote for, let's say, for a Tory, they could defect and you've no longer got a Tory because there aren't by-elections. I was just talking to Kevin Schofield about that if you defect, surely there should be a by-election immediately, because although they say, well, no, you vote for the person, you don't. Not in the locals anyway. It is more to do with the party, and I don't think it serves the public that if you vote in a Tory and then they defect, you haven't got a Tory.
Look, I think that's a reasonable point up to a point. The only thing I would say about that is that and I'm playing devil's advocate here, is that I think the public would get fed up with a whole load of by-elections, right, yeah, that are unnecessary. I mean, by and large, I think people who do that, they're changing their party labels, but their individual politics don't change much. I think, I don't know, I mean, it's just going to be a really, really fascinating time going forward. I think, that there is a bigger problem, which is a problem I think that we probably discussed before, which is there's just such a disillusionment with everybody, and people are not voting by and large, I think, certainly in the majority, for political parties on the basis of either what they offer or how good they are. They're voting for them on the basis that they're the least worst option.
Yeah, and they didn't like the last guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that that's the world we now live in. We really are having people who are voting on the basis that you're not somebody rather than you are somebody and what you might do.
Yeah. The thing is as well, John, that as I was saying a moment ago, is that it's not just that people are changing rosettes. It's that we don't really know what anybody stands for. So you've got those reform. I think we don't. I mean, we know where they're starting from at least, but we don't know much about anything else. So you'd be voting on one issue or maybe two issues at best right now. So you haven't got the full picture of what kind of government they would form. You've then got the Tories who, are they reform light? Are they going to pull back more to the centre? You've got Labour who won't tell us where they're going, who they are. We don't have a clear picture of that. So it's not fair to ask us to vote on only a bit of the information.
I can see where you're coming from on that. You know, the problem with Labour and the government is, and this is again a well-rehearsed thing, is that people think they just don't have a narrative. We don't really know what Keir Starmer is, what he stands for. He talks, you know, today in the Commons Prime Minister's questions about, you know, values all the time, but we don't really know how he translates any of that stuff into delivery because of the actions that he's taken in the period that he's been there. The Tories are still really regrouping from what happened at the general election where they took an absolute stuffing, and they won't be saying much about policy, I don't think, until the next general election. And the thing about the reform that I keep repeating to people is that reform are more a kind of movement or a vibe almost, where as I say, they're not anybody else, but there is absolutely no detail other than a big bunch of headlines as to what they really stand for. And I think, to a certain degree, they're quite happy, certainly in the meantime, to keep it that way. Nigel Farage was in Scotland a couple of weeks ago, and I asked a number of questions at his press conference, including, can you tell us what your policies for this election in May are going to be? To which he replied, you'll find out at our conference in March. Now, other parties, of course, say that too. You'll find out in the run-up to, but there is so little detail about reform because they're the newest of the parties as well. And as I say, I think it suits them to have that particular position.
Again, going back to the question that I'm asking the listeners and viewers at the top of the hour, how dangerous is it for reform at the moment with all of that? I mean, to begin with, it was great. It was a bit of a joke, a bit of a poke at the Tories. It was like, ha ha ha, we're the best. This could really backfire on Farage if he keeps taking in these waifs and strays from the Tory party.
Yeah, look, if reform looks like it's just another Tory party Mark II, and actually it's interesting when you watch who is coming to reform, it seems to me that most of the people I see at a national level are people who are kind of Boris Johnson Tories, for want of a better description, who seem to be joining up with Farage. But, you know, they've been, in the past couple of weeks, very, very keen to say that they were having a prominent Labour defector, and then that Labour defector, we've heard, isn't an MP, and it still hasn't happened yet, which I think is interesting because, you know, Farage is very well aware that he doesn't want to be painted into that kind of position, into that kind of corner.
As a dumping ground for disgruntled Tories.
Yes, yeah. Imitation Tories or whatever, you know, you might want to talk about. I mean, I think the problem for Farage is that, you know, and you've seen this with new parties before, albeit a long time ago, the SDP Liberal Alliance thing and stuff, is that there is so long until the general election that, you know, there is a danger they could peak. There is a danger that, you know, frankly, they might go backwards. You know, you said earlier, you know, how in the past, you know, few weeks that Kemi Badenoch has started to come onto a bit of a game. Now, it's probably far too early to tell about what's happening with Starmer because he's not, as we've seen, the world's best political performer. But look, there he is today. You know, you think after everything that's happened today in the international situation, he might get a wee bit of credit. But you know, as I said, there's a long time to go before we hit a general election. We've got these elections in May. They'll be a fair barometer as to the direction of travel. But as I say, I think there is a danger for reform. They might just peak. But you're right, you know, to be tarred as just a Tory party Mark II isn't going to suit them at all.
It's absolutely fascinating. I love this description of the reform risks becoming the Slytherin house of politics. John, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back to look at the front pages in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie, and with me is John Boothman, political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland. Look, let's forget about Greenland, let's forget about tariffs, let's forget about politics. The big story is on the front page of The Sun for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, well, I mean, is this Nigella you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nigella to be the new bake-off queen. I mean, I find this real. I've never really thought much of Nigella as being a baker. Look, I do remember making at one time a Nutella cheesecake or something that I have in one of our recipe books, but I kind of associate her with other things rather than baking. But yeah, look, that's a big,
probably
big
your own
story.
mind there, John. This is a bake-off judge because Prue Leith has now resigned or retired, or however she would prefer me to say it, I don't know. But she stepped down as a judge on the bake-off. Now, this is an incredibly successful programme. I have to admit that I have a commitment issue, John, with everything. I'm a commitment phobe. So I kind of gave up on bake-off a couple of series ago because it's just like, well, I've seen it now. It's a great programme. I absolutely love it. I'm big on shows like that. I love all of those shows, like the Sewing Bee and all of that. I'm an absolute monster for them. I think this is a good choice. She's very popular, Nigella, especially with women, actually.
I think it's a very interesting choice. You know, look, the beauty in these shows for me is that, you know, can you get a good bit of chemistry between the presenters?
That's it.
You know, do they give you, you know, something different, something interesting? Do they, you know, can they surprise you? And even in a show like Bake Off, which has been going on for so many years now, I mean, how many, was Prue Leith there, how long was it, 11 years or something, did I read?
Yeah, and before her was Mary Berry.
Yeah, and yet somehow or other it still manages to delight. They've got a good, you know, as well as having interesting presenters, and they get a good range of contestants, you know, all different ages. There's a bit of gender balance in it and stuff. You know, they also, one of the things that I don't watch it much, right, to be honest, but I do like to watch the celebrity ones.
Yeah.
Because they're just they can be a good laugh. You know,
they're a great escape, aren't they? They really are. And people go, oh, it's just watching people bake. But actually, the professional Bake Off I do watch. I love the professional one, and that's a very different sort of level, because I think that pastry chefs are magicians. They're just magicians. I don't know how they do it. They're incredible skills with pastry chefs. But the programs like this are great, and I can't think of anybody better, actually. I wouldn't have thought of her, no. But now that she's been put forward, I think she and Hollywood will have good chemistry as well.
I think so. You know, you mentioned the professional ones. I only watched a few. I find watching that they're quite scary, right? Because the levels of skill involved in some of those creations, and that's what they are.
Unbelievable.
I mean, they are creations.
Yeah.
And I often watch these things and go, how are they not going to fall over? Why do they not fall apart? I mean, but you know, I think that's a kind of testament to the great abilities of the people who are involved.
Yeah.
And particularly in the professional programs, the amount of kind of it's like the levels of skill and kind of teamwork roundabout stuff.
Absolutely. It is, but I mean, the culinary world fascinates me anyway. I love it, but pastry chefs particularly are on a different hero worship level for me, because I just don't know how they create what they create. It is magical. It is absolutely magical.
It helps, of course, if you've got if you like eating them like I do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a chocolate beast. I am. Put anything chocolate in front of me, and I will devour it. So that's the Sun front page. It's interesting to see the Sun recently, actually, John. I'm going to say, choosing these lighter stories at the moment, and they've gone big. The last couple of days this week, they've done the Beckhams, and then they've gone for this. They're clearly, in order to sell papers, realising that a lot of people are feeling very bogged down. It's January, we don't get paid for another year or whenever it is. You know, we're all feeling a bit depressed, the weather's rotten. And the Sun seems to be really tapping into, quite smartly, I think, into people wanting a bit of a change.
That kind of light and shade's good, right? Yeah. You know, you don't... I mean, it is such a big story, the story that I'm sure we'll talk about in the next few minutes or whatever. But, you know, you want to be able to, if you're walking into a newsagent's in the morning, for example, right, you know, and glancing around, if you see something that's arresting and something that's different, you know, you're kind of drawn towards it. And I think that, and it's a good, you know, good headline, you know, about Nigella being a shoo-in.
Very clever.
It's pretty clever, good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the Sun is good at stuff like that. Right, let's have a look at the Times, your sister paper. Trump hails Greenland deal for all NATO nations. This has been the quickest about face I have ever seen, and the quickest deal that I've ever seen. So my suspicion is this is exactly the same deal as it has been since 1951, repackaged.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Orange Terror strikes again. I watched them for about an hour on the telly last night and then kind of switched it off
Yeah,
because he was starting to repeat himself.
Yeah.
And then went back about 3/4 of an hour later and switched the telly on, hoping that something else would be on. It was Sky News, and he was still talking. But, you know, we had this amazing spectacle this morning. We got 90 minutes of this pretty unhinged, rambling kind of thing.
Terrible.
He insulted everybody in the room. You know, if it hadn't been for the Americans, we would all be speaking German with a wee bit of Japanese.
Which is ironic, because he was in Switzerland at the time of saying where the second language is German.
German, yeah, and you know, he insulted everybody. You know, that line that he's been coming away with, that you know, that we don't do anything for in NATO for
We've
America.
never stepped up for America, yeah.
You know, and given that the Danes, you know, per head of population lost more people in Afghanistan than even the Americans.
Yeah.
You know, all of that kind of stuff. And by the end of the day, I mean, I'm finding this stuff fascinating. He's had a meeting with Rutte, the NATO General Secretary. He's come out and said there's a deal now. One, Rutte's the guy who called him daddy, and he
don't remind me.
likes that. Yeah, it's pretty yuck, right? But secondly, where are the Danes and the Greenlanders in this so-called deal that's been arranged?
Yeah.
The deal of which we have no details of. As you say, it's probably the same deal that was made in 1951. We probably hear more tomorrow. The Danish Prime Minister is going to be in Downing Street with Keir Starmer.
But that's the only deal that Rutte could have offered him.
Yeah, I think so, right? But,
It is
you know,
he couldn't have offered him anything. It's definitely not the sale of Greenland, because that's been ruled out. It's definitely not what Trump wanted. So the only deal that Rutte had any permission to offer is the one that was already there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's been looking at... I don't know. It's very difficult to tell with Trump. He is so erratic, and actually the damage that's been caused by this is not something that's going to be easily repaired. It's going to be hanging over people for a long time, and we've got 3 more years of this, of course. But I just feel by the end of the day, I don't know how he got this message, right? You know, when you had Carney yesterday saying that, in effect, you know, the middle nations need to look for new allies.
Yeah.
You had the EU suspending the trade deal. You had Starmer, who has been trying to be a bridge between Europe and America for a while. You know, he was as critical, more critical than you've heard him today. I think, you know, a big element of this has been what's happening back home. I think Trump, and certainly the people round about him, must realise that this thing, if I can use this expression, is going down like a bucket of cold sick with people in America as well, including some in his own party, many of whom are be facing elections this November in the midterms. So somehow or other, you know, this has got through to him, and this is a big climb down. This is kind of, he was on and off ramp by the end of the day. He's now trying to save face. I mean, he was, I don't know if you picked him up on the television earlier, he was exceptionally vague, right, about all of it. Said that it's a deal forever, it's an infinite deal, we've got everything we wanted, and there's no detail. Look, the good thing from the point of view of both security, but certainly economically, is that the threat of tariffs, at least for the time being, has been taken off the table. You know, but as I said earlier, you know, there are so many fractures now around this stuff. How can anybody, any country, including our own, we thought we were well on the way to having a trade deal. We thought the I's and the T's needed crossing, and obviously there were some big questions in sectors that needed to be sorted out. But if at the end of the day, depending on which side of the bed the President of the United States wakes up in, whether everything's agreed or not, if you think that he can just go and tear it up and threaten something on the basis
Well,
of...
this is what Ursula von der Leyen was saying, wasn't it? A deal is a deal. You can't just flip the script every 5 minutes, and there is no trust now with America. And it's interesting as well that he's saying, right, I'm stepping away. I've done my deal now, and I'm stepping away and leaving it to JD Vance and the others to sort the deal out, which is again another face-saving exercise. I mean, my theory is that he had a call with Turkey, with Erdogan, who's second biggest military force in NATO, and he's told him to back off. That's my theory, because he had a call the other night, and he's a big bully himself.
I think there's a whole number of reasons of coming to this. I mean, the very disturbing thing about it is that, you know, we are, 21 days, 3 weeks into the new year. He's already been in Venezuela. He has been involved in what has been a horrendous situation in Iran, where it appears many thousands of people have been killed, you know, and this was a president who was encouraging people to protest against
and saying,
the regime.
Don't worry, I'm going to be there for you, and then didn't turn up.
And then, you know, we've had this almost farcical situation over the last couple of weeks, and you could not, right, blame countries, and I'm not talking about any of the European countries here, you could not blame countries in Africa and Asia and in other places of the world to be looking really, really carefully about the behaviour of America and coming to conclusions that drive them into the hands of, for example, the Chinese. I mean, China, Xi Jinping...
Loving it.
They loving it, but also looks like a notion of stability compared to the behaviour of the President of the United States.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're enjoying that. They're saying, come to us because we are stable, we are trustworthy. You can do business with us. And it's interesting as well, you see Mark Carney and, you know, Canada is extremely worried about Trump. I mean, they're carrying out military exercises on the border with America in order to defend themselves from a NATO ally. This kind of stuff is just...
Yeah, it's pretty mind-boggling stuff. I mean, I thought the speech that he made, I read the speech twice today, was actually very, very thoughtful.
I love Carney.
Speech that I think everybody will be talking about how middling nations need to get together to cooperate, not to give in to the bigger economic, stronger economic powers, the bullying powers, brackets Donald Trump, and really start to forge a way for themselves. And there was a coherence about what Carney said last night that you're certainly not getting from Keir Starmer at the moment. You know, Macron, I think, is on his way out anyway. I thought he saber-rattled a lot with his sunglasses on. And I just think, you know, Carney just seemed to be the kind of mature person in the room.
Yeah, he was the grown-up. I think he and Ursula von der Leyen were daddy and mummy, to use Mark Rutte's terms. I tell you what, the other thing politically that really interests me is that the GOP, the Grand Old Party, the Republicans, going along with Trump at the moment, appeasing Trump at the moment, he has fundamentally changed the world, not just for his presidency, but for decades, possibly even generations, that the role of America in the world has been changed in 12 months. And I'm really surprised that nobody seems to be looking at a time when Donald Trump is no longer going to be there, dead or alive. He's not going to be there. And yet the world isn't going to fall back into step with America.
Some people think, right, dare I say this, that maybe he'll try to continue to be there, right?
He's going to die one day, John. He can't live forever.
Let's leave that aside for the moment. That having been said, though, I think, anyway, for what it's worth, I mean, America historically is on the decline. Right.
Yeah. As an empire.
Yeah. I mean, that much is obvious. China is it will be the biggest economy in the world very soon. The world is changing anyway. Whether what comes after Trump is the same as Trump, we will yet see. I mean, I think people are already talking about, I saw something earlier about this whole period as being some kind of aberration, and after Trump they'll return to what was the status quo. I'm not sure that that's the case.
Well,
right?
trade routes will have been set up for a start, going around America. We won't trust them again. Look, they voted this man in twice. Can we even trust the electorate? You know, who's next? Unless they strengthen the Constitution, unless they make sure the guardrails are actually bolted down, and that the president has to listen to the courts instead of it being a suggestion, how can we trust them? It's proved that the system has failed.
That's the big question, you know, but, you know, as we've said already, relationships have been destroyed and fractured all about this stuff. And I don't think there's any particular going back. But that leaves, you know, the whole of Europe at least in a very difficult position. Yeah. Europe itself hasn't covered itself in glory in terms of, for example, security spending,
Definitely
in terms of economic prosperity. I'm bound to say that this wee island that we live on, floating off on its own at the side of Europe and at the other side of the Atlantic, are in probably an even more difficult position because we are now on our own. I know that people will say that, you know, Brexit gave us a lot of independence to go our own way and take our own decisions. I think in hindsight, if we were to have that vote again, we would have remained within the European Union, and I think we're going to have to build even greater ties. That's not to suggest that we will go back in, but given the fractious nature, the uneasiness around the world and this part of the world, I think we're going to have to forge closer relationships with the rest of Europe again. Otherwise, you know, Britain will continue in its slow decline compared to the rest of the world that we've been on for a very long time.
Yeah.
That's pretty depressing, but I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, we're either with China or America or with Europe. I mean, we've got to make it. We've got to make a choice. John, we've got to take a quick break, but we'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, you're with Petrie at the moment, and with me is John Boothman, political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland, going through the papers for tomorrow. The Daily Mail, why the Beckhams took such an intense dislike to Brooklyn's wife, Nicola. Are you a big fan of this story, John?
No. I mean,
how did I know you were going to say that?
I don't know. These are not. I mean, I really think that, given everything else that's around in the world, that the trials and tribulations of whether Victoria Beckham was grinding against her son during his wedding and whether his wife cared or not, right, is kind of, it's not something I'm particularly taken by.
No, I mean, I have to say, I haven't delved into it. Let's put it that way. I've perhaps read a headline or two. It's not really my cuppa at the moment.
I think they should stick to the football.
Yeah,
maybe. And on her part, singing, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Well, can she? I'm not sure she was much of a singer. But anyway, Trump, I've struck a deal for my big, beautiful piece of ice. It'd be helpful if you knew the name of it, wouldn't it? Because several times in his speech, he called it Iceland.
Yeah, 4 times Iceland. I was getting worried that he might call it Shetland. Right?
He's coming after you next.
Yeah, well, that's, anything's possible. They're not really very far away.
True.
Look, there's a whole interesting bunch of takes in the papers, apart from the main story, that being one of them, about his rambling, unhinged kind of speech. I think the Mirror's on a bit. They've got quite an interesting take on it. Look, the big thing, I think, and we've maybe not touched on this, is, for a whole series of businesses in this country who were facing an extra 10% or 25% of taxes. I spoke to somebody last week in the whisky industry in Scotland. That's not been resolved about what the tariff's going to be anyway. To have, the prospect of when they think there might have been some respite, something that might have been arrived at in terms of the trade deal for exporting whisky to, before, midway through the negotiations or towards the end of the negotiations, to get 10% or 25% willy-nilly slapped on them because of this Greenland situation is absolutely horrendous.
Horrendous, yeah.
And, there must be out there loads and loads of businesses in the same place. At least that's been lifted.
But it's an interesting one with
the
tariffs as well, because at the moment the courts in America are deciding whether the tariffs have got to be paid back. I don't know how they pay it back, because actually it's the American people that have ended up paying the tariffs. It's not the British companies, it's the American people. All it does is make that British loaf of bread, for example, more expensive than an American loaf of bread, so people don't buy it. But if they do buy it, it's not us paying the tariff, it's the American people. So if the court rules that what he did was illegal, and yet he still keeps trying to issue them, even though the courts, and he's already worried. He said, I don't know, we might have to pay the money back.
And he himself said that he didn't know how that would happen
last
week.
Doesn't know how to do it.
I think that Supreme Court judgment's coming, is it the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's very soon. It's very soon. And yet he's doubling down on it. Well, he hasn't. He's tacoed on it, but he has normally done. Yeah, the Mirror, as you were just saying, they've gone with Daddy Fool. Delusional president's rant. Donald Trump delivered an unhinged and rambling speech to an audience of aghast world leaders yesterday, because of course it's tomorrow's paper. He axed his tariffs plan after meeting NATO's Mark Rutte, who called him daddy. I will never forgive Mark Rutte for that. Never. Never. The Daily Express, John, our struggling pubs will face years of tax rises. This is the whole, actually, hospitality industry, isn't it?
Well, I think part of this is post-COVID. Basically during COVID, there were a whole series of concessions made to businesses, including hospitality and pubs, about rates, about taxes, business rates and taxes. And, this story is saying that Rachel Reeves is indicating that over the next 3 years that these are going to be withdrawn, and the hospitality sector is basically reacting to say this is a complete and utter disaster and will mean that basically the sector will suffer catastrophic losses and closures and job losses as a result. I think it's I think this is the Daily Mail's attempt to do what the Sun did, which is to get a different kind of story on the front page. And I'm not particularly sure there's a great news story in it. I mean, we were talking about this, in the last few weeks in November in the budget.
Yeah, we are.
Certainly, we've been talking about it in Scotland in the Scottish budget last week.
Yeah, it's you see, the hospitality industry doesn't have its own person looking after them, do they? I mean, they just don't have a secretary of hospitality or anything. And maybe that it is time to have somebody who is particularly looking at. It's a huge. It's such a big, important part of Britain's GDP. That it mustn't be neglected anymore. And other European countries, give them a lower VAT rate, so that and it works well. They understand that these companies are really important.
I mean, I'm quite interested in this insofar as when I certainly look at the habits of my son, for example. We are, if you're going out, it's very expensive to go out. You're talking about £6-7 for a pint of beer or something in Edinburgh. On the other hand, you can buy a can of beer for £1.50 or something. Look, habits are changing, and habits are changing. The pub situation, the hospitality situation is a bit analogous in a funny kind of way to the high street situation. Habits are changing. People don't go to the high street to buy stuff now. You get it on Amazon. You can go to the supermarket and buy, as I say, drink cheaper than you would going to a pub.
True.
People entertain themselves now. And partly it's a post-COVID thing. You can watch a film in the house rather than go to the pictures. We went to the pictures on Sunday night, and the picture house must have had about 10 people in it. It's just interesting, because
it's so
we
expensive.
could equally have watched the film at home. It would have been much cheaper, the same film, and I just think people's habits are changing. Now, that's no consolation to the people who own pubs or who work in shops or whatever. And I think we're kind of struggling to find solutions to this.
Yeah, I went to my local on Sunday and had lunch with a friend, and we had one small glass of wine each and one course, so it was roast dinner basically. Nearly £80.
Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't be untypical either.
Just for, it's just like, oof, yeah, that actually was a bit hefty, a hefty bill. When you can prepare a roast lunch, like you're saying, and have a bottle of wine for, probably £25.
Yeah.
But there you go. So that's the Daily Express. Let's take a quick break, John, and come back and have a look at more of the papers in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and with me until the top of the hour is John Boothman, political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland. The Daily Star, man-baby mayhem It's a done deal. Trump's Greenland framework. Donald Trump last night claimed he'd got the framework for a deal with Greenland, and it came after the Orange Man Baby mixed up the country with Iceland in a rambling speech which attacked his European allies. It really was a sight to behold, wasn't it?
I can't help be struck. I didn't, but by the number of times he keeps repeating himself.
Yeah.
Said the man who keeps repeating himself. but
we have to with Donald Trump, because he does.
I just don't think he knows that he has said what he's just said 5 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except he literally can't remember the name of the country he's trying to buy or take or whatever it is. I will be interested to see this framework, because, like I said earlier, Mark Rutte has not got permission to do any deal with Donald Trump that questions any part of Iceland's sovereignty or ownership. So the deal that he's got, I think it's going to be quite an interesting thing to look at. The Independent, all I want is a piece of ice. If you say no, we will remember. That sounded so much like a threat when he said it earlier on in the day. Of course, it's been superseded since then, but he said we won't take it by military force, but if you don't give it to us, we're not going to forget it.
Yes, again, the results of that. I mean, I know we sit and look at this stuff, and we try to be quite dispassionate about, what's being said, and quite logical in terms of analysing it. But, all of these things have effects. And again, I think it's the Daily Mail, right, which is saying that as a result of his speech and his climb down this morning about military force, that the markets started to go up.
Yeah.
And then tonight, what's happened is that the markets have rallied again even further, because it looks as if he's backed off. None of these things that Trump does are things that just happen in isolation.
Yeah,
they
true.
all have big effects.
Huge knock-on effects.
Yeah.
The other story, which, I mean, the papers are not really, funnily enough, are not really going huge on the Harry story. I think that papers tend to stick together with things like this, but he's sort of mentioned in nibs and bits and pieces. Tearful Prince Harry claims newspaper made my wife's life an absolute misery. This is the Mail Group, isn't it? That there's a lot of celebrities there. But it was interesting. What was interesting about this is that he was blocked in to talk for the day, and the judge gave him 2 hours, shut him down, and kicked him out.
Yeah, I think he was expecting that there were 14 different instances that he was hoping to talk about, and he talked about 2.
Yeah.
I have to say I'm kind of marginally more interested in this than I am in Brooklyn Beckham, right? But, the inside story of a troubled family.
Yeah.
But, there's pretty big issues at stake in this case, rather than, issues that I think are a bit less serious in the Beckham case. He's taken the Daily Mail to court, saying that I thought some of the language that was around today was interesting. As you said, he made his wife's life an absolute misery. He defended his friends against charges that they were leaking stories about him. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
He said the Mail had delved into every part of his life and were listening to his calls. And this is obviously a kind of well-worn trail that we've been down before in terms of complaints that Harry has made about things. And he says, interestingly enough, he said that his persecution by the tabloid press only got worse during the course of the litigation. So, it's a bit of a crusade now for Prince Harry. It has been before, but we're back here again.
Yeah.
And again, it becomes interesting in the wider context that we're hearing more and more stories that somehow or other Harry and Meghan may be coming back here. So this will be interesting to see where this story actually ends up and what's decided in court.
And also what's interesting to me is what is not being said, and that is the usual speculation about him meeting up with his dad or his brother or anybody from the family. There's no speculation about that at all.
No, that is interesting. But again, there will be more of this to come. That's why I think this case is very important from his point of view. But it also has to be said that Associated newspapers are being quite robust, are pretty robust in their defence of their position in relation to it.
Yeah, well, they are. They're accusing his mates. That's their defence, isn't it? Saying, well, actually, it was your friends who were briefing us, so, prove it wasn't. The Guardian is, again, Trump and a little bit on Harry at the bottom, and how the jacket potato has made a comeback. I like it. It's never went away, did it?
Jacket potatoes are big. That's probably the wrong thing to say. Yeah.
I love a jacket potato.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing, right? The jacket potato shops that are still around, in the sort of this stuff about the pretty amazing fillings you can get for them.
Yeah, there used to be one in London. I don't know if there was up there called Spud You Like.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, I loved that place. I loved it. Go in there, get a jacket potato, get every filling you wanted on top of it. It was amazing.
Yeah, my wife gets off, she'll go on a bus and she gets off the bus and goes to the jacket potato shop and then leaves the jacket potato shop and manages to get on the next bus. It's become a kind of science for her.
To get that timing spot on.
Yeah.
To get off and get the jacket potato. Yeah, I mean, I think they're a staple. They will never go away, never. Rather than look at the Telegraph, because actually it again is the same stories, Trump, Greenland, etc., etc. Have a look at some of your picks of this. This was a fascinating story for me, John. The mum of 10, known as the Witch, kept a slave in her council house for 25 years.
This is an absolutely astonishing story. Basically, a young woman kept in a room, a filthy room, for years and years and years and treated like a slave. The thing that amazed me most of all about this story today was to see the woman who was found guilty being released outside the court.
Yeah.
And reporters chasing out after her and saying she'll be sentenced next month or something. And given the nature of this story, the serious nature of this story, she was being charged under modern slavery laws, and given, the period of time and the treatment of this young woman for, I can't remember how many years, a great number of years, I was like
25 years. She was held captive from when she was 14 years old, and she looks about 80. She's
now 40, I think.
Yeah. She looks. I mean, it's so awful what they did to her. She was.
So how come she wasn't kept in jail?
Yeah. I agree.
That was the thing that amazed me, that here she was, walking along the street, being chased by reporters, answering questions on the hoof. And I'm like, sorry, this is such a serious thing that she should have been kept in custody.
Do you know what? If it had been a man that had done that, he would have been. I think
horrendous, absolutely horrendous.
Yeah. I mean, it's just ridiculous. She was fed on leftovers once a day, and forbidden from helping herself to even basic food or using the kettle. She was beaten and kicked regularly as well. So yeah, if this had been about a man that had done that, he would not have walked out of that court. Mm-hmm. He would have been he'd have been held. The other interesting story you've picked up is Nigel Farage blames aid after breaking MPs' income rules 17 times.
Yeah, 17 times he broke the rules. I mean, what's interesting about this story is the amount also of outside earnings, right?
Yeah.
He's the biggest. He's got the biggest amount of outside earnings of any MP at Westminster, and clearly the Commissioner has found, the Standards Commissioner has found that, there was an error that was inadvertent in his part, that the proper forms by the appropriate time were not filled in.
Yeah.
I suspect there will be more of this going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just looking at the numbers, it's basically 1.4 million in a year in outside income, in ad hoc payments since July the 4th, largely from television work. But he was found to have breached parliamentary rules 17 times by failing to declare almost £400,000 worth of income within the required 28-day.
I mean, this is a story this is a story about outside earnings that, you know, at the moment, you know, we're going through a period where nobody seems to be kicking up much of a fuss about it. But we do go through periodically, you know, debates in Parliament, you know, maybe it's sometimes after people overclaim expenses or things like that, where actually people have a great debate about whether MPs should have any more than one job.
Exactly.
And here we're talking about a situation where you have a member of Parliament, okay, it happens to be Nigel Farage, who can make £1.4 million in earnings on top of his MP salary. Again, this will be something that we will be keeping our eye on for all political parties, of course, you know, as we go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's about trust, isn't it? And about them working for us. That's what they're meant to be doing. Just before we hit the end of the programme, John, are you a big man for toys? And I mean that in the innocent way. Britain is a nation of big kids, with toy sales for grown-ups rising at more than double the rate of those for children under the age of 12. Do you buy Lego for yourself?
I'm going to turn this round because I tell a great story about my son, who's now 23. My son was a Lego freak until he was about 11 and then kind of grew out of it. And for, I think it was his 18th birthday, as a bit of a laugh, we brought him a bit of Lego and he turned into a wee boy again. And if I turn this way, you will see...
Oh, a rocket.
A Lego rocket. Oh, there it is.
Is that you built that or your son?
No, he built that.
Right.
And then I do that, and there's a
Lego car.
And if you look in the background over there somewhere, you will see the Tower of London. But, you know...
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that lots and lots of adults... He's very good, by the way. Yeah. Lots and lots of adults are turning to toys. And I can see why, John, because we're all completely fed up with being adults at the moment and would prefer to be children. John, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. John Boothman there, political correspondent of the Sunday Times in Scotland.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning to you. This is Petrie and this is Talkback. This is your chance to do exactly that. I want you to be the conversation in the next hour because, frankly, there's nothing else. We've got rid of everything else, all guests, everything, just so that you get the opportunity to speak your mind. You get the opportunity to do exactly that, talk back. Be the conversation, tell me what you think. And what we're talking about this morning is, well, the question I'm asking you is, where are you politically? Because I'm just so confused about where they are politically, where the political parties are politically. Look, we've got no idea what the Labour Party stands for, really, do we? I mean, it just sort of rambles on, making more and more mistakes that it has to turn back on. You've got the Tories who they don't really know who they are. Are they reform light? Are they reform heavy? What are they? You know, who knows? So how are you going to vote for them? I mean, it is the election is still some time away, but what's confusing the situation is the number of defections. So you've got people leaving the Tory party and going into reform. Now, to begin with, that was a big old joke, wasn't it? It's like, hoorah, that's so funny. Nigel Farage loved it. He was stealing people from the Tories. Now it's becoming, I think, a bit of a problem for reform because they're supposed to be this new, fresh look at politics. They're supposed to be, take a punt on us, we're different. Right? That's their whole thing. We'll do things differently. We're going to be different. Vote for us. We're the party that will sort things out. Trust us. We are not like them. But every day they get more and more like them because they keep taking them into reform. So who are reform anymore? They're not this, you know, we're different. We're so different from all the other political parties. You know, you can take a chance on us. We're going to make a difference. We're going to do things differently because we're different. Well, how different can they be with currently 20 members of the Tory party in reform? And when reform, if reform does get to form a government, it's likely you'll see the same old faces that you voted out at the last election sitting on the front bench. I don't think this is funny for Nigel Farage anymore. I think this could really easily backfire. So who are reform? Are they Tory light? What are they? Are they still the party that you thought you were getting? Give me a call. I really want to speak to you. If you are a reform voter particularly, I'd love to speak to you this morning because I'm not the only one that's noticed this, right? You've noticed this too. How does that make you feel? And do you want them to stop bringing all those, you know, all the defectors in? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And you can text the word talk and your message to 87222. So I'm not asking you who you're going to vote for. I think I'm just asking you which party best suits you. I mean, I don't think they know. I don't know who they are, let alone who we might think they are and what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. We've got a bit of time to work it out. But if reform becomes more and more Tory heavy, is that going to backfire? Ben is in South Wales. Hello, Ben. Good morning.
Hello. First thing, I wanted to thank you for your help you got me last year for my tooth.
Oh, good. What did you do in the end?
I was working and I was having trouble with getting NHS help. for getting a tooth operation.
Yeah.
And a private dentist contacted me.
No way.
Posted, and they said, and they helped me out.
Oh my goodness, I'm so pleased about that, Ben.
With no fee or anything. And it's been fantastic.
Oh, that's amazing. I can't take any credit for that, but thank you.
No, I spoke to you about it, and you helped me. You got me phone calls and posts around, and it was fun. People helped me source it.
Oh,
and they come to me.
Ben, that is the best news. That really makes me happy when I hear stuff like that. So you're out of pain now. You're fine.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, good man.
Smiling every day.
Oh, I'm so pleased. Oh, good. This is why.
I wanted to thank your radio station for helping me with that. You've done a fantastic job, all of you.
Bless your heart. Well, that's what we're here for, really. It's about we're family, aren't we? That's what it is.
True.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point of radio, is that there's that connection. And I'm so pleased that it actually has physically done something to help you. I'm thrilled with that. That will make me feel warm all weekend.
That's good. So the Reform Party will come to... Is this... I don't know name, but Reform Party, I thought it was a fresh party. New faces... new people speaking, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's just like when we had the Tories in, it was full of liars. So I believe they're just more liars again.
It is going to backfire, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people think, thought or hoped that reform would be the answer, right? Whether I politically agree with him or not. A lot of people think, well, look, give him a chance. It's a fresh look at things. It's a different party.
Yeah,
same old faces.
I'm questioning now, is like, who do I vote for?
Yeah. And would you have voted for reform?
Originally, yes.
Yeah.
But I was advertising on Facebook, sharing their posts and that, but now it's just the Tories got involved, and there's this bit.
Yeah, you've really crystallised in my mind, because I was thinking that I'm not a reform voter. All of them, all parties, all political parties.
Yeah, but they're all liars at the end of the day, aren't they?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, but there is that. I don't know that there's been that hope that Nigel Farage and reform would be fresh and new and do things differently. But if they're stuffed with the same old people, how can they?
No, that's why I wanted new faces.
Yeah.
I wanted a whole new party. I wanted new people coming in, not like the same old peoples before. Like, he's brought in the person, I forgot his name, but he's been arguing with each other for many years.
Yeah, I mean, they all, they politically have been hating on each other, and now they're suddenly best buddies, and it just looks all fake, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I just don't know. I'm just like, I just got nothing to, like, where do I vote? Like, what do I do? Who do I believe?
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know where to go now.
It is really, they're destroying democracy, these people, because the more and more of us that think, well, who the heck do I vote for? Well, I'm not going to bother.
Yeah.
The more power they get. You look at Labour, voted in on a massive majority with only 30% of the votes, because people didn't bother to vote because they don't trust them.
It's like, I used to like Labour kind of grew me for a bit, but they've obviously just turned around and doing the complete opposite thing.
Yeah.
Don't they? They're like screwing like working people like me. They're just screwing me over.
Yeah,
like,
we're being the working people are being absolutely decimated by Labour.
It's like we got no kids, but say I had like 3-4 kids, and they just grabbed the benefit cap, the two-child cap. It's like, why are they getting more money than me?
Yeah.
Why can they support their kids and I can't?
Yeah.
It's just gone mad.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Ben, and it's a bad look. It's a bad look for all of us, because we can't trust any of them. I mean, the Tories were appalling shambles. Look at them all infighting, and But they all, I firmly believe they all just care about themselves.
Yeah, but when I was a kid, I had 2 working parents, and we basically lived a life of luxury. We had everything. I didn't we weren't skint, we weren't nothing like that. But now, there's just 2 of us. We're both working. And it's just like we're struggling day by day. Yeah,
and you still can't afford to have a nice life, right? You can just about get by. Yeah.
Yeah, we're struggling. Sometimes we can't pay our energy bills. And we're just like, what the hell?
And the hope was, wasn't it, that Labour, the clue is in the name, right? Labour, working people, that they would support people like you and your wife. And yet all they've done is tax you more.
Yeah, that's why I turned onto their side a bit. That's why I kind of thought, oh, this would be good for us.
I think everybody did.
We're struggling then even more.
Cost of living, taxes, all of it. It is. They have completely turned their back on the working people.
Literally, we judge our times now. The times now where can we turn our heating on because our bills don't cover it.
Yeah, I just know that I just know that I'm going to be paying my energy bill for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's what we're worried about every month. It's just like we both work 35, 40 hours a week.
That's wrong.
And
that's so bad, Ben. If two of you are working, all of those hours a week and you're worried about putting your heating on, it's gone wrong, right?
It's like, man, we're trying to look after our dogs and that. Obviously, we go out, we even go out meals. We don't eat sometimes to feed our dogs.
Yeah.
That we don't drink, we don't smoke or anything.
That's bonkers.
I just feel like it's gone mad.
And it has. If you're working all those hours and doing all of those things, and you're going hungry to feed your pets,
yeah,
that's not how it should be. That's not the promise, is it? The promise is if you work hard and you pay your tax, then you get looked after, and we're just not being looked after.
The sad thing is that we got our neighbours. They've never. You could look at her. You could tell she was never worked a day in her life. And look at her. They got new cars and everything.
Yeah.
But I just don't get what's going on. It's like we feel like quitting our jobs.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people will eventually do that because it's there's a lot of people that it's safer to be on benefits. You don't have to worry about being sacked. Yeah. You don't have to worry about paying your rent. All of those things, and I can completely understand why people are losing faith.
Yeah, and we're on about leaving England, to be honest.
Really? Where would you go?
We don't. We're actually currently doing our research.
Canada.
Ooh, Canada's a bit because. The person who's running Canada seems a bit dodgy, doesn't he, really?
But Mark Carney, no, he ran the Bank of England.
Yeah.
Just wait, make sure that America doesn't invade it first. But
that's true. Well, he's trying to stick on Greenland now, isn't he?
Oh, God, I don't know. Honestly, I've either got to laugh or cry at the state of the world at the moment.
I did believe in Trump, but Trump's even a bit dodgy now. I think people just give mad to power.
Yeah, I think they go mad to power, and I also think that he's old, and I think that there should be a cut-off point, really, for these politicians.
I just want a party where fresh new faces,
fresh new ideas.
People. Yeah, but now I'm just too scared to vote.
I get it. I completely get it. I honestly do, Ben. And I think that Nigel Farage will rue the day that he thought this was a big old joke to bring in, loads of Tories. I think he's going to have to. That's going to be a difficult one. Ben, I'm so thrilled about your tooth. Really am. So thank you for letting me know. I always love it when I hear that things are going well. And thank you for your call. I've got to take a quick break, but I will be back in a second.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is Talk and it's Petrie here, and it's Talk Back. And I'm urging you to do exactly that. This is your forum, if you like. This is your opportunity to say what's on your mind. And I'm asking you a political question this morning. Where are you, politically speaking? And I'm really interested to hear from people, and I've got quite a few messages actually from people who were sure, absolutely sure, they were going to vote reform. Because it was a fresh party, maybe new ideas, a new look at the world. Maybe, just maybe, they'd do something different. Maybe. Fingers crossed that something different might come out of a new party. Because the old ones have failed us time and time and time again. So why not give the new kid on the block a chance, right? What could possibly go wrong? But now we're all seeing they're not quite the fresh new party that you thought they were, because they're suddenly stuffed to the gunnels with Tories, Tory defectors. So is Reform still the party that you're inclined to vote for? Even with, and there could be more defections as well, there could be more Tories, who knows? A couple of messages. Robert Zempic Genrick, did he take it? I think he did. Has derailed the Reform juggernaut. When I woke up on the morning that Kemi sacked him, Reform's only real problem was a lack of policy and ideas. That was their only problem, he said. Now it's got an integrity issue, credibility issue, and a Tory Party 2.0 image, to name a few. Nigel Farage's speech when Jenrick was sacked was shocking, as he looked and sounded like Boris Johnson, and for a second I thought he was going to say oven ready. That's from Andrew in Salisbury. It's a very interesting point, isn't it? I think there is an integrity. There is. It doesn't feel right, does it? You've got a new party with all these old people in it. Kaz says, I was all for Reform until they appointed Zahawi, Jenrick and Rosendale. Now, I'm not sure where my vote is going to go. And just imagine if the example of you is repeated thousands of times over, and Reform is going down in the polls. In fact, what we started the conversation earlier on in this programme talking about was the fact that Kemi Badenoch, for the first time, has overtaken Farage in popularity, according to the polls. So this really could backfire spectacularly. How can you be a new, fresh party with new, fresh ideas when the same old duffers are going to be sitting on the front bench? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Mark is in Lincolnshire. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Petrie. How are you today?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad.
Good.
Yeah, it was just your question there. Where are you politically? I'm probably, I don't know exactly how many others listening would admit it themselves, but I think probably more are than would admit it. But I kind of see myself, I did vote for Reform at the last election. Mm-hmm. I saw through them. I already had suspicions about them before then anyway. But I kind of started seeing through them pretty close to, the election and certainly afterwards. Where I sit politically at the moment, personally, is I see myself as what kind of gets termed in some circles as a modern ethno-nationalist. That's where I sit. That is to say, I'm not a full-on ethno-nationalist. I don't want full-on 100% remigration and stuff like that. I want kind of a return to the 90s demographically, where the English people, the British people were over essentially a supermajority in their own country.
We are a supermajority in our own country.
Not particularly. The English only sit at 65% in England.
Well, that is a majority, isn't it? And that's in England. But across the UK, we are a super majority.
That's barely a majority in England. And within 15 years, as predicted at current trajectories, is about 15 years, we will become a majority minority in the country.
So is it Englishness you're worried about, or whiteness?
No, it's Englishness. It's got nothing to do with race. You see, this is what always happens, Petrie.
No. That's why I asked the question, because if you say an ethno, that's an ethnic nationalist, right?
It is about the ethnicity of the people. It's about the ethnic people, because the reality is, as I say, the English becoming a minority in their own country, in their own land, is not acceptable. That shouldn't be acceptable to any patriotic person in this country. That's the reality. Because it would not be tolerated within...
But black English and Asian English is fine too.
No, but that wouldn't be English, would it?
But that's what I was saying. So it is a colour issue.
No, it's not a colour issue.
Well, there are lots of black. There are lots of people that are black in this country that are English by birth.
No, being born in England doesn't make you English. English is an ethnicity. The English ethnicity is, whether people like it or not, that's a white. Yeah, those people are white. The same as a Nigerian would be black. You don't get white Nigerians, do you? There's no difference.
But that's probably because a lot of white people haven't, in the past, emigrated there and set their lives up there. But there's certainly a lot of white South Africans. So you want to return to a white... We are ethnically, like you said, a majority anyway. In the 1990s, the percentage of the population in England and Wales born outside the UK was relatively low compared to subsequent years. So, so the census, 16.8% of residents in England and Wales were born outside of the UK, according to the 2021 census.
Yeah.
But you're saying being born in England doesn't make you English? You have to be white.
Make you English. Doesn't make you English. What that makes you is you are civically English in the sense that you have been born in England.
So only white people can be English?
Can only be ethnically English, yes. Because that is the ethnic English. They are white people. They are white Northern Europeans, which goes back to the same point. But you see, this is the thing, Petrie. People... like yourself, will always make this about race.
No, you're the one making it about race. I'm not making it about race. I'm just asking you questions.
No. I've not made it about race. What I'm making it about is about the preservation of an ethnic people. That's what it's really about. Because at the current trajectories and the amount of sheer immigration that's been piled into this country, that is going to end. As a nation, as a UK, as Britain, that will end in around 30, 40 years. As the English people, because at the end of the day, most
30 or 40 years, come off it.
40 years, the English will become a minority in about 15 years. And the reason for that is the vast majority of immigrants that come into the country or that have come into the country either from the 50s or in recent years, the vast majority will settle in England because that's where the vast majority of opportunities are. So hence, therefore, the English are in a far worse position than, say, the Scottish or the Welsh. Yeah. So the reality is, unless you want to live in, because the way I look at this, we currently live in a society. This is one example of one of the reasons. We live in a society where we have things like DEI. We have positive discrimination for minorities. Now, the reality is, when the English do become a minority in their country, do you generally seriously think that those things are going to apply to the English people? Because I can guarantee you they're probably not going to.
You can guarantee probably, right.
Yeah, I can guarantee that they're probably not going to be happening for the English people, are they? Because let's face it, right now...
Are you racist?
White working class people are the most, white working class males are the least likely to perform well at school. They're the least likely to end up going to university. Yeah, that's what
Who's stopping them?
Does. Sorry?
Who's stopping them? We all go to the same schools.
Who's stopping them?
Yeah.
Well, for a start, we have a society where, if you come from certain backgrounds, you can be accepted into universities with less grades, with less good grades.
Yeah. So in that regard, then these boys that are so bad at school should be going to university. Then, by that argument. If they're accepted on lower grades, they should be accepted into uni,
No, but
right?
they're accepted on lower grades because of where they've come from, what their background is, what their ethnicity is.
No, it's
That's the
not.
reality.
It's nothing to do with. Mark, can I just ask you a question? Can I just ask you a question?
Yeah, go
Are
for it.
you a racist?
No. Why would being an ethnic nationalist make me a racist? I don't.
Well,
care
you're
about their- I don't
denying.
care about
You're
some- I don't care
denying
about
that black
somebody's skin
people
colour.
born in this country are English.
Yeah, and I would apply the same rules, the same example to, say an East European that's born in this country. They're white.
So you don't want them in here either.
Probably not.
So you realise a lot of people though that you would deem as English had probably generations ago come from all over the world. We've always been an island of immigrants in the same way that America is.
No, we haven't.
Yes, we have.
That's absolute garbage.
Since there were boats on the seas, people have come to live in this country.
That is utter garbage. The Vikings came over here. The Romans came over here. None of them particularly left any remnants of themselves behind.
Oh, come on.
Petrie, I don't know what books you read, but they're obviously telling you a lot of garbage.
There are no remnants of Rome left behind. There's no Roman blood in the amount of children that were born at that time, or the Vikings who raped and pillaged. There's no Viking blood anywhere. There's no Roman roads or Roman buildings or Roman anything. They left nothing behind.
Romans left infrastructure behind.
But no bloodline. No, absolutely. They didn't have sex with any English women at all.
You're talking about Angles, Celts, and Germanic.
Yeah,
blood.
so they didn't have sex. Those Romans didn't have sex at all with anybody in this country. They didn't leave any bloodline behind. No remnants of bloodline behind.
Quite possibly did. Who knows?
What a
I don't
load
really-
of rubbish. That is the biggest load of... You say you don't know what books I read. Well, I do read them. I suggest you do the same. Mark, thank you very much. No remnants at all left behind. Extraordinary. How did we get onto that conversation? Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break now while I have a little bit of a laugh and a little bit of a drink.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until the top of the hour. And we are talking about where you are politically. So I'm going to speak to Carol now, who's in Manchester. Carol, good morning. How are you? Haven't spoken to you for ages.
Happy New Year. I've just got to say before, my God, did you handle him ever so well.
Thank you.
And can I just say to you, Mark, shame on you. That's all I can say is shame on you. You know, how dare you? How dare you behave like that? That is shocking. Absolutely shocking. I come from and been brought up in an area, right, where there was diversity in the 90s and whatever. And my God, would we put you all down, and I'm white, would we put you all down a kind of character like you? So don't you dare speak on behalf of us that lived in the 90s, right, who was in a diversity area, right? How dare you? That's all I can say.
Yeah, but I mean, also, I don't know, you know, all those DNA programs, you know, who do you think you are, or whatever they're called, all of us have got mixed blood. All of us have got. There's not the, you know, the idea that the Romans.
Scottish, I love me English, but I'm Irish, Scottish. Married an Irish man, 40 years, I'm still with him. You know, like, we all have our ways, our what you call it, and that's what I've rang up regarding about, you know, like, how we're going to vote, what's what, or anything. But that is beyond me. I'm sorry, I have to say that. Majority of people do not. It doesn't matter where we come or whatever. Shame on you, Mark. You need to get some help, pal. That's all I can say.
Well, look, he's not here to argue back, but
right. And he isn't. And with the grace of God, neither was I when I had to listen to that anyway. So we'll go with that. But here we go with the politician way. And unfortunate, you know, like, we are in a mess. We're in a mess regarding with Labour, Conservative, Liberal, Greens, everything. We're in a massive, massive mess. And the last 12 months regarding with Labour have not done us any help in any way. It's just made it worse and worse. And like I stated, you know, like when I rang up at first, why I wanted to ring up, I have never, ever heard, ever, you know, like I've lived in a red wall all my life, near enough. I can tell you now, there is no way on this earth, right, the majority, I'd say 90% of where I live, there's no way on this earth that they're ever going to vote Labour. And they are going to vote Reform. There's no, and the reason why is because it's not only new, it's like they're just fed up of everything else.
Yeah, I agree.
And they've got nowhere else to go.
No, they've tried the Tories, failed, tried Labour, failed. So who's left? Reform. But I understand that completely. Yeah. It may not be the way that I would vote, but I totally understand people's frustration and wanting to try something new. And that's why I find it interesting that this act of self-harm by Reform, by making sure that they're not anything new, by bringing in all the old people from the Tory party.
That's why when I was listening to you tonight, you know, like, and it has, and of course it's exploded this week and that. But the ordinary person, you know, like, unless you're political, which I am, to a certain degree, you know, like, I listen to everything, like, so do you. A lot of other people listen, and a lot of people do not, like I said, my mother, all her life, she never even knew the name of the leader of Labour.
She would just vote Labour.
Yeah, she just vote it. Yeah. And she's not the only one.
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about the Red Wall, nobody give a damn who they were or what it is or whatever. Now people are educating themselves a little bit better, especially the younger people. You know, like, they are educating themselves a little bit better. Whatever, it could be social media, it could be television, it could be programs like yourself, it could be GB, it could be, you know, BBC, it could be whatever it is. They are educating themselves a little bit better. And the reason why is because they're not happy. They're not happy. People in this country are not happy. They're really not happy. And the reason why they're not happy is that they're finding it tough. Whatever the reason be, they're finding it tough. The younger people, more than anything, are finding it so tough. I remember me and my husband, you know, like in our 20s and whatever, do you want to rent or do you want to buy?
Yeah.
We had that decision.
You had the choice, yeah.
We had a choice. Now, these kids can't even rent, never mind buy. You know, like, and that's just that small area without the electric, gas.
It's
food,
devastating,
everything.
Carol. You hear me mention my boy quite often.
Yeah.
Him and his girlfriend, $2,000 a month on a one-bedroom flat
Ridiculous.
in not a particularly salubrious part of town. I have to be honest with you. I'm always worried that my wheels are going to be there when I come out from visiting him. But yeah, it's and that's just the rent. As you say, you've got council tax, you've got your bills, you've got your food, you've got transport to get to work. All of those things.
And why have we got there?
It's disastrous, isn't it?
Why have we got there? And all it is, I mean, I am political, I watch Prime Minister's questions. And do you know what really annoys me more than anything? And it does annoy a lot of people more than anything, because lots more people are watching it compared to what they used to.
Yeah.
Do you know, when they're laughing, you know, like when they're laughing, and they all do it.
They're just, it's like they're just laughing at us, isn't it? Just get on with your job.
Yeah. You know, like, you know, and it's like a circus. It's literally like a circus. They don't look professionally. You know, like, they don't look the part. They don't. Can you imagine being in a board meeting, you know, like with a business?
Yeah, and just laughing.
You're all there and you're all laughing and you're all. It don't happen.
No.
It don't happen. And they're laughing and laughing and they're insulting us more. And that's why people are looking for something different. And I'll be honest, they don't care who's going to be in that. All they care about, I'll be honest, right, is the leader. That's all they care, is the leader. They're not looking for anything else because they've seen it before. They've seen it before. And that is what is happening. That is what's happening with the ordinary person. And it's not even the working person, it's the ordinary person.
Yeah, and I think that if Farage left Reform, it would collapse.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
I would think... He's got the personality. Yeah. He's got...
He really has. I'm never going to argue with that. He's actually, I've met him. He's a lovely guy. You know, he's very charming, very funny, very affable. He's got the public interest.
And I'll be honest, you can't take it away from him. He is intelligent, and he is what you call it, and whatever.
Yeah, he is.
But like Boris, they used to call him a clown and whatever. He had that personality.
Well, that's why the Red Wall fell to Boris.
A personality.
Yeah, because it's a cult of personality. Boris managed to get the Red Wall to vote for him. I mean, it was extraordinary.
Exactly, because he, for some reason regarding whether, and I can see that because I'm there myself. I can see that. I mean, I'm looking at Kenny as well, how she started to change. You know, like she's balls there. She's literally in there. She's what you call it.
She's really grown, actually.
Yeah, and she has grown. She was terrible in the beginning.
Yeah.
But so was Maggie Thatcher, you know, like with it. And so was other politicians that were really, really, you know, like with it. But, you know, like she's grown. So it depends over all of them. I mean, I'll be honest, right, I think Labour's gone. There's no doubt about it. I'll be very, very surprised.
If they can turn it around, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very surprised because, unfortunate, and you do need people that are clever or business-minded or whatever. You know, like you need a combination of different people. And unfortunate, with Labour, they haven't got it. They haven't got that. And it's showing it up now. Whatever it be, it's showing it up now.
Yeah, I mean, they just don't seem to have any blooming ideas. Like you said, we've, you know, talking to others like Ben earlier on. He and his wife working all those hours. They haven't got kids. They can't afford. Sometimes they have to feed the dogs and not themselves. You know, they're working 80 hours a week between them, and they haven't got enough money. What's gone wrong?
There is people that are struggling very, very much.
Yeah.
And then there's people that feel they're struggling and they're not, they're spending it on the wrong things. You know, it's a combination of all different things, but unfortunate, these politicians haven't got a grip with it. And if they walk round, if they were where I live, you only have to walk round. I mean, my God, right? You know, like, me and my husband, we talk about it, and I just think, my God, I've just been in Asda, and we're in a line, because I won't do the robots,
Yeah, good for you, neither do I.
Yeah, I won't. I mean, I laugh. That's another program. But at the end of the day, I stand and I look and and we're all talking about. And I'm thinking, I have never experienced that in my life, ever.
That's interesting. That people, it's really good to hear that people are engaging, because that's important. It's important we don't give up.
And I've never seen that. Usually they've got, I'm Labour, and that's like, what? I don't care. I'm Labour. I don't care. I don't care. I'm Conservative. I don't care. I'm this or what. And people now are talking why they are Labour, or why they were Conservative, or why they're Liberal, or what. Now it's like that's the only good thing about it. It's coming to a head,
and it is good.
Our politicians all of them need a massive kick up the backside, because I do think, right, they're out of touch with.
They think that we're stupid. That's the thing. They all treat us like we're idiots.
Agree with you.
And they've got to realise that we're not. And I know, doing phone-ins and speaking to people like yourself, there are more people engaged, they're not getting away with it, right? They think they're getting away with lying to us. They think they're getting away with it. They think that all cost of living is changing. No, it isn't. We know it isn't. We go to the shops. We understand that. So, then we're not as stupid as they think we are, and they've got to learn that full on, so that they start treating us like adults. Carol, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Lee has sent a message saying, where am I currently politically? Homeless. I do like Kemi, but I'm not sure the Conservatives have a way back. They do seem to be heading back to Conservative values, though, rather than Blairites. Reform haven't got a chance. It's a tall ask to get that many more MPs. I fear we're going to be stuck with the current Labour rubbish for a very long time, or even worse, a Labour-Green coalition. My dad always taught me, it doesn't matter who you vote for, the government always gets in. I love that. I've never heard that before. I love that. And that's from Lee in Birmingham. And Trevor said, I would have voted Reform, but I'm not sure now. Too many Tory ship jumpers. Trev in Manchester. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until the top of the hour. And we're talking about politics and basically where are you politically? Because with the political parties being unsure about who they are, I don't know how they can expect us to know who we're gonna vote for, right? Oh, what's happened to my hair? And the bigger question really is about reform, and I've been thinking this for quite a long time. Every time a Tory sort of jumps across to reform, I've been thinking, well, is it any longer reform? Is it the party you thought it was going to be, this new fresh party, this new kid on the block, if you like? And there's absolutely no denying that Nigel Farage has taken it from an idea to a real threat, but a real political threat to the other parties, right? I mean, he's done an astonishing job against the odds. And he's brought this party into the political circle, and he said, look, we're going to be new, and we're going to do things differently, and we're not going to be like the same really as Donald Trump was saying. We're going to clear the swamp, we're going to be different, I'm going to do things differently, I'm going to make sure that this happens and that happens, and we're going to sort out the immigration issue once and for all, and we're going to do all of these amazing things. And everybody's going, okay, well, the Tories have let us down. I mean, they were an absolute mess last time. Look at the pillocks that they behaved like last time. And now Labour is equally letting us down. So, reform, brilliant. They're a shoo-in, surely. Well, they would be, perhaps, if they were a new kid on the block. Well, now, constantly now, they've got 20 Tories that jumped across from their sinking ship, and I don't believe for a second that they've done it for purely political reasons. I think they've done it because they've sniffed blood in the water, and they've decided that the Tories won't win the next election, so to save their own necks and to save their own jobs, they've gone to reform. That's how much I trust them. I don't think they've suddenly gone, oh, the ideals of reform are, that's my political home. I can really do good work there. And neither do you. Come on. We know why they're going there. They're saving their own skin. They want to keep their jobs. They want to keep their power. And so they've gone to where they think they're going to get that power from. So does that make them trustworthy of your vote? People who are just in it for themselves, people who have clearly displayed that they're in it for themselves. When they think that the Tory ship is going down, they jump to anything that they think will take them. That doesn't really give me much faith in their strong will to support the British people, more to support themselves. So with more and more Tories ending up in reform, are they still the party that you want to vote for? Are they still this new, fresh hope that you had for something different, for something to change things, to drain that swamp, to be new? If they're stuffed with a bunch of Tories, all the same old faces that you voted out at the last election, are going to be there at the next election and possibly forming a new government with all these old faces. So that's been the question I've been really interested to speak to so many reform voters and read from reform voters who are saying, I'm not sure anymore. Tristan, good morning.
Hello, Petrie. Good morning. How are you doing? Fabulous.
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Thank you for asking.
Good.
Right, so I'd like to say I'm looking for something new. a new party, but I'm not looking for a homeless Conservatives club. I'm really not. It's ridiculous. Come on. It's about new. We need everything to be new because we've had all these failed parties over the years.
Yeah.
Well, we've had the big two forever. Something needs to give. I'm a huge believer in that. But the thing is with reform, to be honest with you, I mean, as someone who can't work, as you know, I'm registered blind and I'm epileptic as well. So it puts me between a rock and a hard place. If Robert Jenrick hadn't used the word scroungers once, he hadn't used it enough times in his speech, as far as he was concerned. That really angered me because I'm getting sick and tired of all the big three parties currently attacking disabled people. And they're all as bad as each other.
They are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they think that's what the public want to hear. They want people like you to be put down and marginalised, and because it's your fault. It's either your fault or it's the immigrants' fault. Actually, it isn't. It's their fault.
Absolutely. Every successful government in history has had to have a victim. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Oh, yeah, they always have somebody to pick on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that worries me is as a Jewish man, I get worried because of those allegations about Nigel, and it wasn't exact. Yeah, that was a bit of a concern for me. I know that Tories and Reform have been good to Jewish people overall, but that allegation started to really panic me a bit.
Well, it cost Labour quite, in the Corbyn era, didn't it? The whole anti-Semitic, I mean, it's a big political issue.
Yeah, absolutely. But look at how well that's been proven about Corbyn as being absolutely correct, those allegations. I mean, you couldn't get more of an anti-Semite if you tried. Yeah, but Kemi's finding her feet, I must say. I don't think people are ready to forgive them, but she's certainly coming across, as your last caller said, ballsy. She's hitting a few...
She really is, and I was surprised because the leadership challenge that they did, the leadership contest, the multiple leadership contests that they had, but the one where Kemi Badenoch won. Her speech was brilliant. It was the best of all of them, and the reason Jenrick's jumped ship is because he didn't win, or Robert Generic, as he's known in Westminster circles. Her speech was brilliant, and I had really high hopes for her. And as you know, I'm politically absolutely afloat. I don't like any of them.
Yeah.
But she was really, really good. And then she got the job and just fell flat on her face. It was embarrassing. I just thought, where was all that promise? And it's taken her nearly a year to pull herself back up. She's getting there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she's doing well for herself. I mean, whether Britain's ready to forgive the Tories or not, I really don't think they are.
I think it's too soon.
I think she's the right leader, possibly at a very bad point for them. I think she should have waited her turn. Yeah. But it's interesting times in politics, isn't it? I've got to say, Petrie, you should be so proud of yourself tonight. You annihilated that. Oh, good for you. I was very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Because in terms of his thinking, I'm Czechoslovakian, so it's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
I mean, my family go back generations, Cornish and Scottish. Am I convinced that there isn't some Scandinavian, I've got blue eyes for a start, some Scandinavian, some Roman, I mean, of course there is. All of our blood is mixed. All of it is mixed. It is crazy to think that no Roman impregnated.
Exactly. My proudest possession is my British passport, Petrie. I love that. That says me.
Yeah.
But I'm not Czechoslovakian, and my family have been here for 4 generations now.
I know, exactly. And yet you wouldn't, in Mark's world, you wouldn't be ethno-national.
No.
Or you wouldn't be English.
Yeah, sorry, did he say what party he supported?
We didn't get there, to be honest.
Oh, well, good, yeah. He would have given him a bad name.
But I was quite happy, you know me, just I was quite happy to listen. But,
yeah.
but then when people say silly things, it's got to be corrected, hasn't it, really?
Yeah, never scared to take him on. You're ballsy as well, just like Kemi.
Yeah. The thing is, I would be a terrible, awful politician, because I would be...
Oh, no, you'd be brilliant. You'd really tell it as it is, wouldn't you?
I know, but I'd be really honest, and I'd be corrupt and brown envelopes, and I'm being honest with you. But at least I'd be honest about it. At least I'd be honest.
Absolutely.
Tristan, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, my love. You take care. Lots of love to you. Bye now. Right, I've got a couple more messages that I just want to read before the end of the programme. This is from Joanna from Salisbury. It says, no to Ed Davey with his water sports antics that insulted our intelligence at an important time. No to the Greens, just want to see even more immigration and to legalise drugs. No to Starmer. I knew Labour would be bad, but this is pure communism. No one asked for it, and it's just one big lie. The cost of all of this will fall on my grandchildren. It's just down to the Conservatives and Reform. I watch with interest. Reform have clear direction. Kemi has grasped policies from Reform together for the sake of the country. I think they could be a force to be reckoned with. There are some very good members in both of them. I wouldn't discount... I don't think we'll have a clear party winner at the next election at all. I think it will be a coalition, and I wouldn't discount a Tory Reform coalition. Which means that nothing will get done for the following 5 years, because coalitions are absolute disaster. But I wouldn't discount that as a very real possibility. And I think they're going to have to politically get into bed with each other towards the election.